All right, let's just jump right in. We're about to unpack a pretty bold argument from our source material today. It's this idea that the Christianity we all know, well, it wasn't actually founded by its namesake, but by someone else entirely. And there you have it, the entire thesis in one sentence. The claim is that the religion about Jesus is a very different thing from the teachings of Jesus, and that this new religion was essentially created by one man, Paul of Tarsus. So throughout this explainer, we're going to walk through the case that our source makes for this. Okay, so to really get our heads around this argument, we first have to look at what the source presents as this fundamental clash of ideas between Jesus and Paul. Now check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. The way the source lays it out, Jesus taught this radical message of self-empowerment, that the divine is inside you and that saving yourself is your job. But then Paul comes along and, according to this argument, flips it on its head. He says, no, you can't save yourself. Salvation only comes from believing in the person of Jesus. And when it comes to money, the messages couldn't be more different. They're total opposites. So, you have to ask, why would Jesus' original message be seen as so dangerous? Well, the source argues that to understand that, we have to zoom out and look at the world he was born into, the Roman Empire. Here's a point the source really hammers home, and it's absolutely crucial. The Roman economy ran on slavery. I mean, the whole engine. For the rich and powerful, people, actual human beings, were property. They were the foundation of all their wealth. It wasn't just part of the economy, it was the economy. And boom, that's the threat right there. See, when Jesus tells a slave that they have a divine spark inside them, that they're free in the eyes of a higher power, he isn't just talking philosophy. To a Roman patriarch, he's literally stealing property. He's chipping away at the very thing their wealth and power is built on. So, this brings us to Paul. The source presents him as the guy who solved this Jesus problem for the Roman elite. And he didn't do it with armies or laws, but with something way more subtle, a kind of rhetorical magic trick. The tool Paul allegedly used has a name: sophistry. It's basically the art of using really clever, really convincing arguments to twist the meaning of things. The idea is that he would take Jesus' words and, with a few smart tweaks, make them serve a completely different, even opposite purpose. And here it is. This is what the source calls Paul's great trick. It's a foundational shift. He allegedly took the focus off of Jesus' empowering words, which were all about looking inside yourself, and put all the focus on having external belief in the person of Jesus. And with that one simple change, it's argued, a philosophy of liberation became a religion of obedience. I mean, when you see such a radical reinvention of a message, you have to start asking some questions about Paul's real motives. Was he just a passionate follower who interpreted things differently? Or, as the source suggests, was he something else, an agent working for someone else? The source points to these three big mysteries that mainstream history kind of struggles to explain. First, why would a rich, highly educated guy like Paul suddenly join up with a movement of poor, uneducated peasants? Then there's his conversion. One minute he's hunting these people down, the next he's their biggest champion. And finally, where did he get all that money? His travels, his staff, that stuff wasn't cheap. The source suggests that when you put it all together, it points to one thing. Paul was an agent, a spy. So, if Paul was an agent, what was his mission? Well, the source argues it was to build a whole new religion from the ground up, using a very specific blueprint, one designed for social control. The argument isn't that Paul just invented this religion out of thin air. Instead, he was more like a master chef. He allegedly synthesized the most useful parts from the three major cultures of his time. From the Jews, he took the idea of a Messiah, but cleverly changed him from a warrior king to a prince of peace. From the Greeks, he borrowed the super popular stories of gods who were born of a virgin and then die and come back to life. And from the Romans, he took their rigid, top-down social structure to be the model for his new church. Let's dig into that Greek influence for a second. That ritual, the Eucharist, where you eat the body of your God, that wasn't new. But the source claims Paul used it for a very specific reason, to wipe out that divine spark of individuality Jesus talked about. It's about replacing me with we. You become part of the collective body of Christ, which really means you become part of the church. And the structure of that church? It was supposedly a direct copy-paste of the Roman family system, the pater familias. You have one powerful father figure, the patriarch or bishop, at the top.
This created a perfect franchise model. Any Roman nobleman could just pick up this blueprint and use it to control his followers. It was familiar and easy to implement.
So what's the end result of all this engineering? According to the source, it's the creation of a brand new, incredibly efficient model of power. For the ruling class, this was a serious upgrade. Just look at this breakdown of the upgrade. You're no longer just a king. You're God's representative on earth. Your wealth isn't just stuff anymore, it's spiritual authority. Instead of having to buy slaves, you convert loyal followers who join you willingly. And your power? It's no longer at risk from thieves or rebels, because now it's divinely protected. It's a whole new level of control.
And what was the sales pitch for the slaves? It was simple, and according to the source, it was brilliant. You work hard, you obey, you suffer quietly in this life, and your reward will be an eternity of bliss in the next one. This promise was the ultimate productivity tool. It supposedly made slaves more obedient and even more hardworking.
This quote just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The argument is that the entire target audience for the message was flipped. Jesus' message of inner freedom was for the people at the bottom. Paul's message of obedience and hierarchy was for the people at the top. So where does this leave us? If this theory holds any water, what are the real long-term consequences of building an entire civilization on this kind of foundation? The source concludes that what Paul created wasn't just a religion, it was an enduring power structure. It became this incredible vehicle for elite families to protect their wealth and pass it down through the generations. It forged an alliance between rulers and bankers that has lasted for centuries. And it created a system of private, secret societies where the elite could coordinate their plans away from public eyes. The source essentially argues that this model for power is still operating in the background of our world today, which leaves you wondering, how much of our society was shaped by what it calls Paul's great trick?